Good evening. I'm Air Force Sergeant Hugh Morgan, along with Army Specialist Bob Lawrence.
This is the story of Apollo 12, a 500,000-mile round-trip voyage from Earth to the Moon. The mission, achieve man's second landing on the lunar surface, lay out a complex scientific instrument package, visit the 1967 Surveyor 3 spacecraft, collect and photograph rock and soil samples, and return to Earth. The participants, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration and their subsidiaries at Cape Kennedy, Florida, the Manned Spacecraft Center in Houston, Texas. The voyage of Apollo 12 involves a complex network of scientists, technicians, and engineers around the world, providing a continual video and audio link with America's moon men. The astronauts, Naval Commanders Charles Conrad, Mission Commander, Alan Bean, Intrepid Pilot, and Richard Gordon, Skipper of the command ship Yankee Clipper. The scene is Cape Kennedy, November 14th, 7:22 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and CBS commentator Walter Cronkite describes the launch of Apollo 12.
Launch of Apollo 12, there was no show of the excitement to come in the way one event routinely followed another during the countdown this morning. The main anticipation was the arrival of the first President of the United States to watch a space launch from the scene. The first thing we saw this morning was the familiar steak and eggs breakfast for the crew. Mission Commander Pete Conrad, rookie astronaut Alan Bean, and Richard Gordon, the stay-behind fellow who will circle the moon while the other two land on its surface. And here they are, the astronauts, as they have reached the White Room level, walk across that catwalk from the elevator to the White Room itself. First man in will be the commander, Pete Conrad. Dan Rather, I gather you're there at the Kennedy Space Center, there at helicopter side.
That's correct, Walter, and it's pretty drippy out here at the moment. It's been raining for about the past 15 minutes. Everyone who has one has his umbrella out, has his raincoat on. As you see, the President has his raincoat on. Mrs. Nixon is raincoatless, although a Secret Service man is opening up an umbrella now for both Mrs. Nixon and Tricia Nixon as they step off the helicopter.
Coinciding with the President's arrival, a rainstorm swept the area, bringing the worst weather ever for a launch. But the decision was go, and shortly we'll watch the launch as Wally Schirra and I described it. Just after the Saturn Apollo disappeared into that low cloud cover, lightning struck near the spacecraft, although exactly how close is still being debated. You'll see and hear Conrad, that is, say a few seconds later that he has lost his inertial platform and the spacecraft power system has cut out.
10, 9, 8, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running, commit, liftoff. We have liftoff, 11:22 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Pete Conrad reports that your program is in. Tower clear.
I'm pitching a roll program, and this baby is really going. Okay, we just lost the platform, gang. I don't know what happened here. We had everything in the world drop out. Roger.
+1.
Fuel cell lights and AC bus light. Fuel cell disconnect. AC bus overload 1 and 2. Main bus A and B out.
At a news conference after launch, astronaut Tom Stafford described the emergency procedures taken by the spacecraft crew.
At the time when they lost the 3 fuel cells and the 2 AC buses in the spacecraft, a lot of lights come on and the warning sounds go off. I think Pete Conrad and the whole crew should be really commended for keeping a cool head there and reacting just like they should, since our own instrument unit went out and started to spin on him. However, he was looking at the rate gyros as the backup instrument, made his own analysis real fast and said, let's press right on. At that time, then Al Bean was able to reset the fuel cells, and by the time that they got past staging, they had the AC buses back on the line working 1, 2, 3, 4. I think this also brings out the point that when everything just went boom like that suddenly as far as the loss of power and all the other indications is an example of why we have experienced test pilots flying these vehicles.
President Nixon watched the launch outside in the rain. Sometime later, when everyone had caught his breath again, the president visited launch control.
America, the United States, is first in space. We're proud to be first in space. We don't say that in any jingoistic way. We say it because as Americans, we want to give the people of this country, and particularly our young people, the feeling that here is an area that we can concentrate for a positive goal. Concentrate and be proud of being Americans. Be proud of what we have accomplished, not only for ourselves, but for future generations and for the whole world.
Well, all's calm now. The spacecraft has left Earth orbit and is on its way to the moon.
Well, Houston, Chris says he doesn't think you guys are the same age as when you got up this morning either. He is absolutely correct. In fact, I wish you guys play us that DSE tape back tonight. All LP kept saying was, there's power on the buses, there's power on the buses. And every light on the right-hand side was lit. I kept thinking, why is he saying that to me? That's beautiful.
This is Walter Cronkite, CBS News, Kennedy Space Center.
Saturday, November 15th. The first on this flight is the free return trajectory. By firing a rocket early in the flight, the Yankee Clipper is headed on a more precise course to the moon. David Shoemaker of CBS News follows the rocket burn.
It was only a small rocket burst as these things go, but what a difference 40 miles an hour was to make for Conrad, Gordon, and Bean. With the television camera mounted securely over their shoulder, the astronauts ran through the checklist, preparing to become the first men to leave the so-called free return trajectory. In the past, our spacecraft always have had the capability of swinging around the moon and returning to Earth automatically if anything went wrong. Now, Apollo 12 was to be committed to a path that did not guarantee a safe round trip, although plenty of backup procedures remain.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, landing 99, 0, 2, 1, ignition, thrust, ball valve, okay, other ball valve, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, touchdown, all ball valves off, the pressure's apex off, very good.
After yesterday's trouble-filled beginning, the flight has now settled down to the usual routine. The astronauts have the afternoon football scores and are looking forward to a shave this evening. The only thing out of the ordinary today was Conrad's flight cap, which has sprouted a propeller on top. David Shoemaker, CBS News, reporting.
Monday, November 17th, the Yankee Clipper orbits the moon. Charles Conrad aims a small television camera at the lunar surface, and the view is spectacular.
There's there's a whole bunch of areas in here, just looking out the window generally, that give you the feeling that, as we've talked about with the geologists, that some of this is volcanic action in here.
Okay, now we can see a crater just to the left of the screen there that's rather poorly defined, and there appears to be a good-sized rill or fracture running across the floor.
Can you see the straight wall now, Houston?
Yes, sir, we can see it very good, just beyond that large crater with another smaller crater in its rim, and we can see the wall on beyond it.
Picture that, anybody know? You got this little chart right here. We've been, since the update, we've been here 56 minutes, so use the 56-minute data. 60. I'm going to move off the straight wall now, Houston, and look down at a crater. I don't have my chart here, so I don't know the name of it, but it's got extremely well-defined terraced walls. It's got a nice central peak in the middle. And let me see if I can get it better for you. There it is.
Oh, Raj, we have a
And
good
it
one
also
there, Al.
has a nice crack right down at the bottom.
Raj, we
That's
see
a
that?
pretty impressive looking crater. Sun's getting a lot lower now as we approach the Terminator. Things are much lower in relief. Let me point the camera back past the straight wall again. Let me give you another view of that because it's coming into even greater relief from this angle. Then I'll go back and give you the horizon because that's one of the most impressive things right here. Take a look at those mountains.
We have them.
Some of those mountains we talked about earlier that look like from a distance like little clouds over the Mare. You can see how bright they are relative to the Mare surface. And maybe even on the TV they look like puffy clouds. However, they're not. They look like pretty hard rock down there.
Raj, understand they are not clouds.
Let me show you some more of these clouds. I think you'll like them. They just seem to be large bumps on top of the Mare. Here, let me show moistening over here. There you go. Boy, it's beautiful right here. Look at that crater.
Tuesday, November 18th. The story of undocking and landing, told now by CBS cameras, simulation, and Harry Reisner.
Apollo 12 moonwalkers are in a rest period now before their scheduled second stroll early tomorrow morning. It's only the second time in human history man has reached the moon, but world reaction was interested, not wildly enthusiastic. Something quite normal for America, according to a student in Warsaw. But it wasn't normal, not for anyone. The first moonship, Apollo 11, missed its landing site by 4 miles, and nobody cared very much. But Apollo 12 was designed for a pinpoint landing within walking distance of the old Surveyor spacecraft that's been sitting in a crater since 1967. So the descent of Apollo 12 began with the very gentlest of undockings.
Back off, Dick. There he goes. I just wanted to wait there and let that damp, Pete. Okay, I got minus, I got -1 and nothing, so forget it.
Hands up at Houston, looks good.
On the tube, Jerry.
Real good, Dick, real good.
Okay. Okay, Dick, yaw left 60. Hey, Pete, you're cutting that out to me. Roger, go out box.
Unlike Apollo 11, the lunar module did not gyrate about the sky, letting the command module pilot look it over. All maneuvers were performed by the command ship, whose position, since it remained in orbit, was less critical. As the two ships drifted around the edge of the moon together, command module pilot Richard Gordon dove his vessel away from the lunar module, giving Conrad and Bean a clear run to the moon. Then, out of sight of Earth, Conrad fired the descent engine and headed down. An hour later, Conrad and Bean began the last few thousand feet of their descent. They sounded something like a baseball pitcher-catcher combination, as co-pilot Bean not only read off instrument readings, but kept up an encouraging chatter to Conrad at the controls. Conrad spotted his target, as the touchdown is described by Walter Cronkite and former astronaut Wally Schirra.
Hey, there it is. There it is. Son of a gun, right down the middle of the road. Outstanding. 42 degrees, Pete. Hey, it's starting right to the center of the crater. Look out there. I can't believe it. Amazing. Fantastic. 42 degrees, dude. Just keep slide it in. 42. We're passing 3,500. Coming down at about 99 feet a second. You're looking good. Got 15% fuel. I'll reset my watch. Okay, I'm going for landing. Over 1. I just want LPD to the right level. Okay, Roger. 40 degrees, LPD, Pete. 40 degrees. So fantastic, I can't believe it. Right. 266. Okay. Yeah, got to get over 330 feet, coming down at 4. Got 11%. Just load the gas. 300 feet coming down at 5. Look at that crater right where it's supposed to be. 50 feet coming down. Watch for the dust. 46. Low level. 42 feet coming down at 3. Coming down at 2. Okay. Start the clock. 42 feet coming down at 2. 40 coming down at 2. Looking good. Watch the left. 31. 32. 30 feet. Coming down at 2 feet. You got plenty of gas. Plenty of gas, dude. Hang in there. 30 seconds. 18 feet. Coming down at 2. He's got it made. Come on in there. 24 feet. Contact light.
Roger, copy contact.
Clock.
That's beautiful blue light. Oh,
Okay. It's storm off. Okay. I'll cycle these valves. You got your 10-inch command override off. Yep. Okie dokie. I'll cycle the main shutoff valve. Okay. Front seat closed. You get both legs closed, Dave. The rates are closed. Landing P. Outstanding, man. Answer arm on. Beautiful.
They apparently had a real cloud of dust. But what an excited approach and what an excited crew as they found themselves going right down the road, as he said, right where they wanted to be.
Great. That's a testimonial to improved data from one flight to the next.
And what an important thing this is for future flights, because this is the flight that was to prove out pinpoint landing.
So far, there's been only one major failure of the Apollo 12 mission. Their little television camera, like this, some $78,000 worth, stopped working about 40 minutes into the moonwalk. Apparently, astronaut Bean inadvertently aimed it at the sun, burning out its picture tube. Before that, it sent excellent color pictures, 250,000 miles back to Earth, even after Conrad at one point turned it upside down. We begin with his descent from the moonship to the moon.
Is that a quick flight that well? You're coming into the picture now, Pete. Okay. Okay, got the old camera running. Okay. Down to the pad. Okay. Man, that may have been a small one for Neil, but that's a long one for me.
He's recalling Neil Armstrong's remark about a small, one giant step for mankind. It was a harder step for him, possibly because he's 6 inches shorter than Armstrong.
Hey, that's deep. We have a good shot of you there, Pete. Okay, well, I'm trying to make this baby apart. While I'm doing that, Houston, go ahead. It's just like Neil. I didn't see any crater at all. Now you really gotta watch your step down here.
He's removing the thermal cover from the mesa.
This is where he's having a little trouble keeping the camera right side up.
Come on, little fella. Couple of TV cameras. Okay, ready for you, Pete. All right. Well, pretty good. Better get my visor down, though. Yes, sir. Boy, that sun is bright. Wait a minute. Chart I didn't get. The boy colored chart on undisturbed service didn't make it. Contingency temporary, I got it. Yes, I got. I'm off to the AFVN antennae. Good. Come over here where I am. See that Surveyor sitting there? There that thing is. Look how close we almost landed that crater.
Thursday, November 20th. Astronauts Conrad and Bean have been on the lunar surface for almost 24 hours. They've explored the lunar surface once and are on the surface again to collect rock and soil samples and to visit the Surveyor 3. 32 hours after landing in the ocean of storms, the Intrepid lifts off and docks in lunar orbit with the Yankee Clipper. CBS News provides simulated coverage of the second moonwalk and voices of Conrad and Bean from Mission Control. Following that, the docking.
Where do you want to grab the sample here? Right here, I'd like to grab that rock right there because it's got kind of a sharp edge on it and all the rest of them are, it's got kind of an oblique edge on it, and you don't see many like that around here. This one right here, this gray one. This one, the big one? The big one. Ho, ho, ho. Wait till I get the pictures. Okay. Al, look at the bottom of that crater. Okay, look at that. You think that stuff melted or what? What does it look like to you? Well, it looks to me, those rocks look, what it looks to me like is we've got one of those central, little bitty central peaks, you know, a little rebound there like don't they look melted on the top? Don't they look like they were molten? They're not completely jagged. We ought to grab one of these pieces of rock. Hey, here's some good rock samples right here. Come on. Okay, let's get with them right here. I know. There you go. That's a good rock. Hey, look at the pits in it, too. That's obviously going to strike a lot of meteoroids. It's going to be a good rock. Houston is about 3 feet in diameter, 2 feet thick, got a background, well-rounded, got out of surface pits in it. I can see the glitter, and I got to back off to 15 feet this one. Okay. You know what I feel like, Al? You ever see those pictures of giraffes running in slow motion? That's exactly what I feel like. Beautiful, beautiful sight. You know, this one's brown, and I don't remember ours being brown there at the Cape. Kind of a light tan, or maybe that's the way it's changed color. What color was this one? Houston white? What started out?
That's all white. The equipment bays and the primary structure was all painted with a white paint.
It turned tan or something. Let's look at it more closely. No, that's what happened. It changed color. I'm sure it has. Let's cook that paint brown. It has sort of weathered a little bit, 31 months in it. Deer, though. Tell you what, Daddy, that antenna's still pointed right there. That's normal. Do I have to move? Okay, that's done. Captured that. Okay, we got the sample, Houston.
And here are the historic first pictures of today's docking. Walter Cronkite and former astronaut Wally Schirra are the commentators.
This is from the command module of the lunar module ascent stage, Intrepid.
Okay, it looks so good when you're so ugly. Say again? Okay, it looks so good when you're so ugly. No, you look awful sick yourself.
There they go.
Yeah, that's...
We've got to pitch around. Get their
2 rolls, Ed.
nose in toward the command module.
There's a lot of sunlight come up off the antenna there.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking from the right side of the command module, so it's on the left, so he's off to the left, so you'll see this move as if we're going to the right. Whereas the center line is really to the left of the screen.
Gee, that's great to see that. I see the window coming into focus from the left hand.
Up a little bit. Good, Dick. Okay, go free. Very good.
Nice talk.
The trip back was rather routine, no major problems, and the first news conference from space allowed a pre-splash analysis of much that had been learned on this mission. Then at 3:58 on November 23rd, splashdown in the South Pacific, 3 miles from the ship Hornet. The same hands that had guided Gemini 7 and 11 to perfect water landings had done it again. NBC commentators described the recovery operations in the water and aboard the Hornet as now captains Conrad, Gordon, and Bean go into quarantine.
And there it is, high in the sky, almost directly ahead. Now the carrier Hornet turns and is heading directly for the command module. Still strong. What would you estimate that altitude? What range would you estimate?
I'd estimate it at about 3 miles and possibly 8,000 feet right at the moment, Bill.
A splashdown can't see any more perfect than this one.
No, it could.
We see what appears to be all three of the giant 83-foot orange and white parachutes just now disappearing into the lowest lying layer of clouds at an altitude I would estimate maybe 1,200, 1,500 feet, somewhere around that altitude. It will take a few seconds for the astronauts to emerge from the bottom. We're waiting now for word that they are all right. The command module was clearly visible directly ahead in the path of the Hornet, which continues to close. Not as fast as had been originally intended, because it was believed we would be at a range of about 5 miles. And the speed was to have been increased considerably, in fact, almost doubled to get to the recovery point. Still in the clouds is the Apollo 12 command module, the Yankee Clipper. The ship tells us it's at an altitude of 3,500. And those clouds probably come down to, as we said, about 12 to 1,500. There it is. The command module has again reappeared. I see at least 2. Can you see the third parachute, Lieutenant?
Yes, I can. There is 3 good chutes on the module.
Now all 3 chutes are very, very visible. The altitude must be about 1,000 feet. It will descend at about 22 miles an hour, which is just about the normal descent for a parachute. The impact at splashdown will be just about like jumping from a 3rd-story window, but most of it will be absorbed by the water itself and by the collapsible portion of the spacecraft on which it will land. The Hornet is now turned so that the command module is slightly off our port bow, and this is exactly the way the commander of the Hornet, Captain C.J. Cyberlick, wants it to be. He wants to be about 1 mile at least away from splashdown point, so the recovery helicopters will have plenty of room to work. The command module is now very close to the water, moving down. We're waiting for the exact splashdown point. There it is, splashdown. Splashdown has occurred just off our starboard bow, and it looks by my watch to be about 30 seconds later than the planned point. The helicopter now is in position, and it is 2 NASA officials who are shoving the stairs into position. One is John Stonecipher. The other one I do not recognize. I believe it's Don Peterson. And there are the astronauts in the doorway. Astronauts Conrad, Gordon, and Bean waving briefly to the sailors standing around. It's hard to see which is which because they do have the special respirators on, as well as Hornet caps, which were waiting aboard the helicopter. All 3 disappear after another wave inside the mobile quarantine facility, followed by Dr. Clarence Jernigan. Randy Stone, a NASA engineer, slams the door, and in just those few brief brief seconds, we had a quick glimpse of three men who certainly appeared to be in very good health. It's impossible to tell whether they were smiling behind those rubber masks, but they certainly moved with ease and showed no ill effects of their long ride.
Within the next 2 years, there will be 8 more flights of Apollo, all concerning scientific exploration of the moon. Americans will land on the moon 3 times in 1970, twice in 1971, and 3 times in 1972 to complete the Apollo series. According to NASA's schedule, Apollo 13 will lift off at Cape Kennedy on March 9, 1970. Apollo 14 will be launched between July 7th and 14th, and Apollo 15 in November. And while the Apollo series concentrates on the moon, scientists and engineers at NASA look beyond as man continues his journey to the stars.
At the end of the Apollo 12 mission and at the beginning of an epoch, it seems that people who use words, meaning most of us, haven't come up with a word that really describes the brilliant success of the first 2 moon ventures. The flight of Apollo 12 has been a lesson to Bob and myself. We are both young by comparison to network newsmen who've been covering this flight. They are closer to the story, both in distance and from their vantage point as peers of the men and women who brought imagination and skill to the space program. But here in Vietnam, we're participating in an event that will be a mark of our generation, and so we are glad to take our places as observers in this country. We've also seen in intimate detail the beginning of the age when man first went to the moon. Where will we be at the age that America's so-called establishment and commentators are now? At least in space, the possibilities are infinite. I'm Air Force Sergeant Hugh Morgan. For myself and Army Specialist Bob Lawrence, good night.